and welcome back to another edition of Nebraska Football Now. My name's Andy Classen, joined once again by Jake Bartecki, our Husker Insider. Jake, how are we doing?
Doing well, man. Vibes are good. You know, you got a win in week one, something Nebraska hasn't done in 5 years, and now you look at Colorado and really get a chance to get this year off on the right foot.
You hit the nail on the head. All is well in Husker land. A lot of smiling faces. Everyone's happy. A lot of good vibes, as you mentioned. Do you have a big picture takeaway, though, from that UTEP win? We saw a lot of good things. 40-7, offense was clicking. Defense showed some good signs as well.
Yeah, I mean, all three of the things that I was watching for in that game, Nebraska checked all the boxes. Dylan Raiola was one. Was he going to live up to the hype? Was the moment of coming out of the tunnel walk going to be too big for him? 19 of 27, over 200 passing yards, and two really nice throws on the touchdowns. I mean, the one to Isaiah Nair was a beautifully placed football, and then the one at the end of the half to Jamal Banks put it only where it was a 50-50 ball for his receiver. It was a 50-50 ball that only Banks was going to catch or was going to fall incomplete. So that's number one. I really thought Dylan Raiola was strong. The run game was really good as well. I thought all four running backs looked really, really strong in that one. You had the one fumble by Dante Dowdell. He sat. Matt Rule said he had to sit for a little bit and feel it, but he came back in and made another big impact. And the defense was really good as well. Just 7 points, 205 yards, forced a turnover. They looked every bit as good as they were a top 15 defense a year ago.
Yeah, Jake, you took me right where I wanted to go, and that's the defense. A lot of talk about the offense, but hey, here at Nebraska, we like to talk about defense. They were only on the field for 50 plays, caused that safety, got a turnover. Like you were talking about checking boxes, I felt that the Blackshirts did just that against a week one opponent.
Yeah, I didn't even mention the safety. I mean, that was the first time Nebraska put 2 points on the board since 2009 in the Holiday Bowl. So it had been a long time for that circumstance. But yeah, the defense looked really good. You know, Marquise Buford at corner. I was kind of curious about that move when Tony White said he was going to shift from safety to corner, and he did give up a long touchdown, but for the rest of the game, I thought he played pretty well. That was really the only blunder by the defense in that one. I thought the pass rush was really good. I didn't think there were really any weak spots. The secondary was good. Now you've got experience with Isaac Gifford back there as well. So I think Nebraska's in a pretty good spot defensively. We'll see what the test is like this week, because this is probably one of the most skilled offenses they'll see this season.
Well, now we can talk a little offense, and I was impressed with the rushing game, utilizing 4 running backs, very little rushing from the quarterback position, something we haven't seen in recent years. What were your thoughts on how that offense kind of came together there in week one?
Yeah, and we'll start with the run game there. I thought the run game was really good. You know, this is a situation that a lot of teams go through early in the season of who's going to be the starting running back. What a lot of teams don't go through is, why do we have 4 starting running backs? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And every single one of them played really well. I mean, Nebraska had over 220 rushing yards in that one. Pretty even split carries between Emmett Johnson, Ramir Johnson, Dante Dowdell, and Gabe Ervin. I thought Dowdell played more than I thought he was going to play. And Ramir Johnson and Gabe Ervin, coming back off of injury, both looked really good, especially Ramir Johnson. He led Nebraska in carries out of those 4 running backs. So really good to see him play well, really good to see all the running backs continue to perform, because that gives you an upper hand in the defense when you can rotate guys out and have a fresh one in the backfield every snap if you want.
Many good thoughts about the rushing game. Let's cut to a snippet from head coach Matt Rule and his thoughts on having 4 running backs at his disposal as well.
I liked the way it felt, that like it was really hot out there, and thank goodness we were on the cooler sideline. You know, they were going fast, and we were getting 3 and outs, and they were staying on the field a lot. So to be able to keep putting different backs in there that were fresh, I kind of enjoyed it. So, you know, we had certain roles. Obviously, you know, Ramir and Emmett were like the sub backs, the third down backs. You know, the big backs went in on short yards and goal line, then we mixed them. And so I think we do that for another week. You know, we'll just keep doing that, you know, because I like kind of where we're at right now.
So, Jake, you heard from the head man himself. A lot of positives, which he's a positive type of guy, so he's always going to find the good. But I have to agree with him on this one. What say you?
Yeah, I think all 4 running backs, when you have the ability to continue to use them, you obviously want to give the reps to the guys that deserve the most carries and the guys that are providing production. But, you know, the old saying is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and I think that's what Coach is getting at.
Well, okay, like in every season, there's the off season, a lot of hype, a lot of build-up. Now we're into the season. We're getting into it. Week 1 tune-up, which Nebraska hasn't had that opportunity since 2019. Now we got a Division I, a Power 4 conference team, Colorado. It's going to be hyped up. A clash of cultures, I've heard it called. What do we need to be looking for as Nebraska fans? We're on this high right now. Here comes big bad Colorado to town. What can we expect?
Well, all week in media availability, we've heard from a lot of the coaches saying we're focusing on ourselves. We're focusing on the football. We're focusing on advancing where we were in week one to progression into week two. And I think that's the right attitude you have. I mean, that's not making this most talked about game of the week, other than maybe Michigan, Texas. It's not making it bigger than that. You know what I mean? And it's not dismissing how big of a game it is. It's big. It means a lot to the fans. It means a lot to the players. It means a lot to Colorado. It means a lot to Coach Prime. But at the same time, what Nebraska wants to do is they want to go out and play good football. And they want to see that they can get better from week to week. And obviously they want to win the football game. Now that's the general side of it. I think when you look at the football side, when Nebraska's on offense, with how fast and high-powered Colorado can be on their side of the ball, I think Nebraska's got to chew the clock. I mean, you got to see 13, 15, 17 play drives. Run the ball. We've talked about these 4 running backs that Nebraska has. Utilize them. Don't put all the pressure on Dylan Raiola's shoulders in a first real test game. Use him because he's a great quarterback, but also remember that you have so much depth at a running back spot. If you can burn clock, the more time Jimmy Horn Jr. and Shadur Sanders and Travis Hunter are on the sideline, the better.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Keep that offense on the field. Keep their offense off the field. You mentioned the young man, Travis Hunter, two-way player. I think he only set out like 2 or 3 plays the entire night. We have another snippet here from our coordinator, Tony White, on what to expect and how Nebraska's going to try and limit him. Let's take a listen.
I mean, he is special talent. I mean, he's the best two-way player, one of the best athletes in the country. I mean, there ain't no way to sugarcoat that. You know what I mean? And again, it's one thing to face him and to have to defend that, and then it's another thing when you're just watching football and you really just admire the way he goes about the game, his love for the game, the way he plays. I mean, you can see him. He's a playmaker no matter where you put him, and so again, it'll be a challenge to the defense, and we got to make sure we're ready to go.
Once again, Jake, I'd like to get your thoughts on what Coach White had to say. It makes a lot of sense, but as with so many things, much easier said than done.
Yeah, and I agree with what he said. I mean, Travis Hunter's an outstanding player. I mean, there's a lot of people in the college football world that aren't huge fans of Colorado, but one thing you can't deny is that he is an insane player. I mean, to be able to, you mentioned it just a few moments ago, he only sat out 2 or 3 plays against North Dakota State, and he really came into fruition last year in that TCU game. And TCU's coming off a national championship runner-up. Travis Hunter goes out there and shocks the nation and does some incredible things. I think Nebraska is going to have to be on their toes with him. And, the other thing is, big plays are going to happen with Colorado, right? I mean, that's kind of their identity. And I think the big thing defensively, and Tony White even alluded to this, is don't get down when a big play happens, just next play and next man ability.
What are your final thoughts heading into this Colorado game? Colorado has a couple extra days, right, with that Thursday. Labor Day is behind us. It feels like football is in full swing.
Yeah, I mean, Colorado will be ready. Coach Prime will have his guys ready, but so will Nebraska. Honestly, I think Nebraska might be in a better spot than Colorado right now because Colorado, you mentioned the Thursday game, but that was a 4-quarter football game. Everybody was playing up until the very end, and they beat North Dakota State by 5. So 1-score game there. Nebraska, they had that tune-up game. They got to rest their starters, and we saw flashes of how good they can be when they're at their potential. So I think Nebraska's probably riding a little bit more of a high coming into this one. But I echo what the coaches have said this week at press conferences. I want to see Nebraska. Obviously, you want to see them play well enough to win, but I want to see progression from week 1 to week 2. That'll show that Matt Rule's new standard is working. It's
going to be a big game. Colorado, say what you will. They bring the eyeballs. It was a record television audience Thursday night, and that audience is probably going to be on. I was going to say, it could be again this weekend, too. No doubt. Jake, thank you for your time and all that wonderful information. You're always at all those pressers digging up those great sound bits for us. And thank you for joining us on another Nebraska Football Now here on News Channel Nebraska.